Today I'd like to give you my review of Thunderbear. This is a tank build that I was recommended during my live streams, and it worked extremely well while leveling, especially since I spent most of the time doing dungeons and also PvPing, which this build is not very good for PvP, but it kind of did the job, especially when there was a healer around. It really helped this build shine. For the most part, this build consists of a lot of druid bear stuff, and then also some shaman abilities, which complemented the lightning style of this build. When it came to tanking, swipe was definitely the bread and butter for just going around and just spamming the hell out of that while you build up all your aggro with all the mobs. For the most part, I never really had to taunt a target using the actual taunt ability unless the mob was just far away from where the rest of the group I was holding was stationed. So in those situations, I would go and I'll individually target that one in the distance and I'll go ahead and I'll taunt. Well, one thing I noticed while tanking, pretty much any type of damage that you do towards a mob usually pisses them off to want to attack you. So that's probably like the easiest thing about tanking in WoW, is not really having to overthink tanking. Pretty much all you do is just press swipe over and over and maybe throw an AoE or two, which there's two AoEs that are going to be used the most here. One is Thunderclap, which transitions into Storm Smash for the bear form. This mythic enchantment buffs a lot of the stuff that you're going to be using. Like Volcanic Bite, for example, that's another one that's a spin-off from Chain Lightning. And the cool thing about this ability is that it also buffs your Thunderhide, which I didn't understand until I was already almost level 60. So when you're using Volcanic Bite, it will turn the Thunderhide, which is the damage buff that when they hit you, they'll get electrocuted. It gives you more stacks when you use Volcanic Bite. I wish I knew this sooner while I was playing. I just wasn't paying attention enough. So this helped you sustain all that extra damage from you getting smacked on top of having thorns as one of your buffs. So every time they hit you, they're constantly doing damage to themselves, which also contributes to aggro. So it makes it really easy to tank on this because you're constantly always pissing off the mob in some way. There's a couple things that I wish I could have changed while I was playing with this build, because I was in draft mode, so it didn't allow me to change my build halfway through because I wanted to get the achievement of finishing this all the way to 60. But there's two things. One, mana management was pretty bad. So if you swapped yourself from human into bear form, it takes like a good 25% of your mana, sometimes even a little bit more. Also on top of that, putting your buffs on is enough to drain a little bit of that mana. So if you're not careful with this, if you swap in and out of bear form too much, like let's say in PvP, I found myself getting on my mount, running to the next battle, jumping into bear form, doing my thing, going on my mount, jumping into bear form, that basically just drains all your mana to the point where you can't even go into bear form anymore and you're just a sitting duck. So what I would have done, I would have deleted challenging roar, because like I said, you don't need another taunt. I never once found the reason to ever use challenging roar. And then another big reason of why I don't like it is because of the 3-minute cooldown. That's way too long to wait for a taunt. So it's a useless ability to me. I would have tried to fit in life tap instead of that. And also, it desperately needed a heal, because I found myself in a lot of situations, especially when I was PvPing, which I know this is not a PvP build. But still, we are talking about a game where you could literally put any power you want. So I would have replaced Smoke Bomb, I never used it, and also Ancestral Spirit, because I used it one time my entire time leveling for heals, something, anything, so I could be able to sustain myself a little bit. So those are the two things I would change in this build. Other than that, this has been a really good experience with this build. I had a lot of fun leveling with this thing. And it was interesting that I was actually having fun with the PvP with this build. Just to let you know right now, like, don't try to PvP with this seriously, because you will end up face planted 90% of the time. But I still had fun anyway. Overall, this is really good. I'll give it a 4 out of 5. It's a nice build. This build also goes into an endgame PvE and PvP build. I'll experiment with that another time, but I at least wanted to touch base on the leveling one because it was pretty important to get a build that was good for leveling. This one definitely did a good job, even during build draft. It was nice. Anyways, thanks for watching. Leave a thumbs up if you liked the video, thumbs down if you didn't, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.